Hello, I'm Andi Masria Determin, a student from class A22, and now I wanna explain about the components of classroom assessment, which is inside the book that Ma'am Aini shared in the previous meeting. Okay, so for the components of classroom assessment, they are consisted of learning goals and objectives, assessment method, assessment criteria, feedback, data analysis, reporting, reflection, and purpose. Yeah, so I'm gonna explain the first one, which is learning goals and objectives. Okay, so before starting any assessment, it is important to have a clearly defined learning goals and objectives that guide instruction and assessment. And about the second one, assessment method, there are various methods of assessment including formative assessment or ongoing assessment during learning to monitor progress, summative assessment, or assessment at the end of a unit of course to evaluate student learning, and diagnostic assessment or the assessments to identify student strength and weakness. This method can include tests, quizzes, essay, projects, presentation, observation, self-assessments, and peer assessments, and more. And then the third one is assessment criteria. Assessment criteria refers to the specific standards or rubrics used to evaluate students' work. Criteria should be aligned with learning goals and objectives and be clear, specific, and measurable. And the next one is about the feedback. Yeah, the feedback is an essential component of assessment as it provides students with information on their performance and helps them to improve. Feedback should be timely, specific, and actionable. And next, we have data analysis. Once assessments are completed, the data collected needs to be analyzed to identify patterns and trends. This analysis can inform instruction and help teachers to adjust their teaching strategies to to better meet the needs of their students. The next one is reporting. Okay, so reporting refers to the communication of assessment results to the students and parents and other stakeholders. Reports should be clear, understandable, and meaningful, and provide information on student progress towards learning goals and objectives. And the next one is about reflection. Reflection is a crucial component of classroom assessment as it allows teachers and students to evaluate the effectiveness of their teaching and learning strategies and make adjustment as needed. Okay, so after talking about the components of classroom assessment, there are also more addition to it, such as the purpose. So the purpose of classroom assessment is to collect information on student learning and performance to make informed decision about teaching and learning. It helps teachers to evaluate the effectiveness of their teaching strategies and identify areas for improvement. It also provides students with feedback on their performance, which can help them to improve and meet learning goals. And the next one is measurement. Yeah, so measurement in classroom assessment involves the use of various assessment methods to collect data on student learning and performance. These methods can include tasks, quizzes, essay, projects, presentation, observation, self-assessment, peer assessment, and more. The more process should be aligned with learning goals and objectives and use clear, specific, and measurable assessment criteria. Next one is interpretation. So in interpretation, in classroom assessment involves analyzing the data collected to identify patterns and trends. This analysis can help teachers to understand how well students are meeting learning goals and objectives and make informed decisions about teaching and learning strategies. It also allows the teacher to identify areas for improvement and adjust their teaching strategies to better meet the needs of their students. And the use of classroom assessment data can be varied but it should always be used to make informed decisions about teaching and learning. The data can be used to identify areas, strength and weakness, adjust teaching strategies to better meet students' needs, provide feedback to students, and report on students' progress to parents and other stakeholders. The use of assessment data should be aligned with learning goals and objectives and be grounded in evidence-based practices. Ultimately, the goal is to improve students' learning and performance. Alright, so my humble opinion about this uh, thing is actually the components of classroom. Yeah, so there are some um, major keys that I take, for example, like the purpose, the measurement, and the interpretation, also the use that I have explained just now. And also the use is also has a part like diagnosis, grading, and instruction. So here I focus more on the grading. Yeah, so for this grading, the teacher usually use grading to get the score and also to motivate the student. Some students maybe need more motivation, for example, like uh, telling them that if they do the homework, of if they do the task or the assignment, they will get a better score and so on. So it's gonna motivate them to study harder and learning harder and smarter, of course. And then about this grading, actually, from my experience, there is also a kind of problem actually. Yeah, so the teacher use it to motivate student, but in grading there are something that I can say is like a natural score or pure score and then added score. So for the natural or pure score is actually the score from students language skill and their performance in classes, and the additional score uh, is about the additional score that is given to the student. It's because not because of their uh, capability or their language proficiency, but it is also because of many factors like uh, their necessities and also the schools that ask to give the students a good score even though their skill isn't good enough. Yeah, this is the kind of problem that I sometimes face in my school. For example, when I want to give my students final assignment, and then after that, of course, that will be students with high score and high language proficiency, and also there are some students who doesn't. Yeah, so this makes a dilemma whether which is I have to give them a good score, but I also need to consider about what the others like my like my how to say this, yeah, like the schools teachers, other school teachers that uh, put the stress on me because I have to give some of the students also the good score. Yeah, so this creates a dilemma. Yeah, and also there's another thing which I want to mention, that is the dilemma is about the good performance student with a bad attitude and also average performance student but with a good attitude. Yeah, sometimes it's kind of difficult to give them the score because the purpose of education isn't just about there's academic skill, but it's also about transferring the value of a human being into a child or into a student. Yeah, and this isn't an easy task or easy job because some students aren't very obedient and sometimes they would just misbehave or ignore the teacher. Yeah, but based on my experience, I just think that sometimes the school really doesn't really, sorry, the school doesn't really give us a good chance to give them a pure score. But that's understandable because they want it to be look good in front of the stakeholders like a teacher, like the students' parents and other teachers. Well, I think that's enough for my humble opinion. Thank you so much for your time and thank you.